blessed with all the, all the legendary, educators of India, and, very happy to welcome all of you here. As usual, let us start our program with a prayer. Thank you very much. Today, we would like to announce, very important thing before we start our session today. Please make sure that, that 11 tomorrow onwards, we are starting the MCQ training. There are 2 parts, very important session. There are 4 subjects, is listed: English, social science, mathematics, and science subject. There will be 4 hours of training. All the details you can receive in the chat box. And one more important announcement, mindfulness session. Already we completed 1 week, started from 2nd of October, Gandhi Jayanti day, and we are getting excellent response. Only 15 minutes a day. Please do this. Let us make some good changes in our society through our transformation. And please use the same password which you have entered today. Please use it. And the most important announcement today, we have is that induction ceremony. So with all your permission, and we are so grateful that we could do it in the presence of our great Balasubramanian sir. So we were waiting for such a date, and I also got his permission to do that also. And now this time we are just putting a video. You can watch our great leaders with their designations. Let me start it.
I was selected to the fiercely competitive Scientific Officers Training School of the Atomic Establishment at Gandhi. I was trained as a nuclear scientist and engineer. After successful completion of this course, I served the Department of Energy for nearly 14 years. I worked in different domains of science, technology, and management, such as industrial toxicology, health physics, effluent engineering, radioactive waste management, desalination technology, supply chain management, and public understanding of science.
I started out as a teacher at 8-7 in an imaginary classroom with flowers as my students. I fell out with the values imbibed in childhood and discovered my passion for teaching when I joined intermediate college. Here I discovered that each child is unique. Thus began my journey of excellence. It has taught me to believe that excellence in teaching is founded on passion. My subsequent career with Tata Business Excellence Group to promote education excellence in education schools has equipped me with the expertise to facilitate schools aspiring for quality and excellence. I, Vipali Mishra, am here for you. Thank you. I'm Dr. Vasanthi Tyagarajan, founder, principal, and correspondent of Sisha School that's located in Tamil Nadu. I've been in for education for decades. And I'm very passionate about teaching, learning processes as well as training, especially the professional development of teachers. I was very fortunate to be part of Project Zero at Harvard University and worked with Dr. Gardner. A lot of wonderful discussions, and Dr. Gardner was kind enough to mention those discussions in his latest release of book, Mathematical Intelligences. I'm privileged to be part of this wonderful CEIR organization, which is reaching out teachers everywhere. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this group.
I'm just Gopal, basically by education. I'm a civil engineering graduate with a postgraduate in environmental protection management. I pursue my passion, and every day I live. I'm an author, actor, and a practicing hypnotherapist. Currently, I'm a law student, and in the field of healing minds, as well as coaching people for a better voice. Thank you very much.
As an educationist and trainer with more than 30 years of experience. I began my career as a science teacher in Kerala Samajam Model School in Shirpur. In 1995, I became the principal of Kerala Public School in Shirpur. In Mumbai, I was the head HR and management representative of the school and successfully led the school to ISO 9001-2008 accreditation. In 2014, I was selected by the Royal Society of Chemistry and trained as a teacher developer by master trainers from UK. I have conducted the RSC trainings for more than 350 teachers across many states in India. I retired as principal from Vedanta Global Zoo, Himachal Pradesh, just before the pandemic struck India. Thank you.
I'm Rajlakshmi Devi, ex-principal and education consultant from Bangalore. My qualifications are MSc in Physics, MA in Applied Psychology, and NEP and MPhil in Education. After my retirement, I am working as a freelance teacher, trainer, and reviewer of educational institutions. I participate and enjoy all activities which bring energy, joy, and efficiency to the educational system. Thank you.
I'm Seema Jayath, Principal, DLF Public School, which is located in the Delhi NCR region. Most recently, I have been part of both the CBSE projects to train principals, wherein I got a chance to co-create the content, as also trained the master trainers for lead transformation in 2018-19, and now for the pedagogical leadership framework in 2020-21.
I am Dr. Sapna, Director of Academics, Educademy Oda, and founder I Big Wonder on YouTube. To be part of CEIR as owner director, it is indeed a privilege because this trust and this platform gives immense opportunities to the educators for the right kind of coding, for the right kind of topics for regular capacity building. They are stalwarts and people who come and share their views. It's sort of a non-profitable organization completely for the educators. I personally feel a lot of privilege, and thank you, Srisan Gopinath sir, to be part of it. Look forward to be able to contributing as much as I can. With this, I always say that everybody has a right to celebrate. Bandla, Jai.
This is Dr. Meenakshi Mula, working as a principal at Shamford Futuristic K-12 School, Oraya. I am founder director at Mountain of Mentors, an institute that accelerates your learning curve. I am MIE Master Trainer, MIE Expert, Google Certified Educator, GEG Leader from Kanpur, Adobe Creative Educator, Digital Certified Educator, Bansi Ambassador, and lot many other tools that I'm expert at. Why I have been keep on exploring all those tools? Because I do promote and support education through gamification, value-based and SDGs integrated education. This is my initiative to help the educators to make the classes engaging, enriching, and exciting through inculcation of innovative pedagogical skills. I am a proud supporter of visible thinking routines to bring in the class and make your classes just amazing. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Basna Sir and I work as head HR for the Mount Cambridge Group of Schools in Mumbai. My schools also go at the state and Cambridge board, and we have a student age 3 to 16 who study with us. My background is in psychology and I've been applying it in education for more than 25 years now. My goals are always place students at the center, and I always aspire for them to have schools that handle them with warmth and love. And even though right now academics is at the center stage of the school's agenda, I do believe that in time, education has become to agree that building social and emotional skills is probably the most befitting and sustainable goal for education.
Hello, I'm Dr. Preeti Ojha, working as a principal in Delhi International School, New Delhi, India. My qualification has been in technology from graduation till PhD. I have been working as an educationist for the past 19 years. My forte has been to use technology to connect people, students, teachers, and all the stakeholders nationally and internationally. I have been using this technology also for various kinds of resource development for teachers and as a trainer for various organizations. My maximum years of training has been with British Council, and now I have been also associated to CBSE as a resource person. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Jyotsna, psychologist and psychotherapist, memory trainer and NLP practitioner. I associate with International Internship University as a professor, medical education of college in Bangalore University. I am currently working with 9Care Research Center as a CEO and chief scientist. I associate many NGO, institute, university, national and international. My main domain is research.
Whatever the question, education is the answer. This is Prasanna Ramanjan. My qualifications are MSc and I did postgraduate diploma in education administration. I have been in education field and management for 15 years, worked with many reputed institutions like Delhi Public School, Sri Chaitanya Techno School, Orchids International School, and Pearson Group of Schools, and then Birla. Right now, I am the principal in GEMS Education located at Mumbai. My interests are visiting different places to attend sessions to explore where I can learn my strategies, management skills. I'm very fond of learning and teaching. That's been my practice as a leading career. I'm very passionate on professional development of teachers, and in my trainings, I cultivate leadership and motivate others so the teachers equip confidence and determination to reach the school vision. I feel very thankful to be in contact with people in CEIR. I extend my pleasure and gratitude for inviting me in this. Through this, I'm sure that I will definitely fulfill my passion and heights as a learner, ensuring to share my experiences and methods to all over because I perceive in sharing knowledge. Looking for CEIR to strengthen my vision. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to all for this great team. And now I invite our president, Dr. KK Shahjahan, to give the induction ceremony. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Season. Dr. Respected Balasubramanian sir, the guest and speaker of today, dear CEIR GT members, zonal directors, premium members, other members, principals, managers, and participants of today. Indeed, this is the proud moment of CEIR Global Trust to conduct the 5th induction ceremony in the presence of an eminent personality, Mr. Balasubramanian sir. You all viewed the videos that you witnessed just now, all the personalities that who are going to be inducted. There are 13 members are there, and they showed their contribution in the field of education, and they are in front of us now. I can read the names of such personalities: Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, Dr. Deepali Mishra, Dr. Vasanthi Tyagarajan, Dr. Chris Venugopal, and Mrs. Manorama Ramdas, Mrs. Raja Lakshmi SP, and Ms. Seema Jarat, and Dr. Sapna Agarwal, Dr. Meenakshi Narula, Ms. Upasana Saraf, Dr. Preeti Oja, Dr. Josna Singh, and Mrs. Prasanna. Now, these 13 members are there. Dear members, please listen me very carefully that we have taken or we have gone through your biodatas. We inquired about your capacity and your past activities, and finally, the CEIR Global Trust, the Supreme Body or the Management Committee of the CEIR Global Trust approved your appointment as zonal directors. Now, today, the 9th day of October 2021, I, Dr. KK Shahjahan, the President of CEIR Global Trust, induct you as the zonal directors of the areas as indicated in the brochure. From today onwards, you will be known as the zonal directors of CEIR. Please realize your responsibilities and contribute your best and join hands with the CEIR's effort to develop our education system in line with the global standards. I welcome you all to the CEIR Global Trust family. I congratulate you all individually and wish you all the best and be with us. Thank you very much.
Sri Kanayan or 3 others.
So before, today is the grand finale. I congratulate our dearest Manila Carvalho ma'am. She is the principal of DPS Bangalore. She was the head of this project, all our academic responsibilities. She is the general convener. On behalf of CEIR and our great family member, we give her an excellent, congratulations for organizing the NEP 2020 Master Series Season 2. So now we officially start our program. Thanks for waiting us. Already we got a detailed introduction about sir. I introduce Mr. Mahajan to welcome our beloved Balasubramanian sir. Please, sir.
Good evening. Salam alaikum. Namaste. Namaskaram. Once again, on behalf of CEIR being the Vice President, I too welcome all the zonal directors, and I'm very happy that all the 13 people will bring the change. Let's be together to bring the change. I'm very happy that Dr. A.P. Jayaramanan, who has interviewed me 35 years before in the Atomic Energy Cell, I was appointed, but I could not join there, and I joined Army Welfare Group because of certain reasons. So I'm very happy that we both are sharing the stage after 35 years and come to the today's program. G. Balasubramanian sir, one of the milestones in the path of success, teaching, learning, administration, and in particular, the assessment. A personality who is postgraduated in chemistry, postgraduate in Hindi, diploma in German, started his career as a PGT chemistry, reached to principal, joint secretary, director academics, and chief vigilance officer of CBSE. Sir has created a road path. He has created his own way and own path. From his life, what we can understand, if you have to reach to the sky, you have to choose your own ways. You have to make your own wills. I would like to welcome sir with the 2-3 lines which is very close to my heart. सीढ़ियां उन्हें मुबारक जिन्हें छतों पर है जाना, सीढ़ियां उन्हें मुबारक जिन्हें छतों पर है जाना, मंजिल हो जिनके आसमां, उन्हें होता है अपना रास्ता खुद ही बनाना, उन्हें होता है अपना रास्ता खुद ही बनाना. Honorable Balak Subramanian sir. Sir, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. And it is indeed a pleasure to be with all of you this evening. As a matter of fact, this is my compartmental examination, because I failed in the main examinations of CEIR. Okay, so this is a second attempt that they have given to me. And as a teacher, as an assessor, I would like to put it on record that today's program we will try to fare better. Well, at the outset, I would like to compliment the CEIR and especially Mr. Gopinath, Mr. Pramod, and Mr. Shah Jahan for this wonderful work that you have been doing. As a matter of fact, when I look at the profile of the people whom I have introduced today, I am a little surprised whether you have left any notable educator across the country to be included into your team. So that speaks volumes of what you want to do and what aspirations that you have. Friends, let me share my are you able to see my this one?
Yeah. It is visible, sir.
Okay, great. So the topic that has been assigned to me is about the assessment, the NEP way, and I believe that I would like to start with the greetings to all of you on the festive season, because different types of festivals are on floor in different parts of the country. So I think many schools have also declared holidays during this time across the country. So I would like to offer my felicitations to all of you and say that, as I said, I'm back at the compartmental examinations for you. Well, when you look at the kind of, when I looked at my own performance last time, where because of technology, we had to close down the program, I had three kinds of feedback I looked at it. One, I looked at my own self, at what went wrong with the program. So I looked at and I said, listen, there are three types of assessments that you have. One is a self-assessment, the other is a peer assessment, the third is a expert or the teacher assessment. And that's exactly what the National Policy of Education talks about, the 3D assessment or the 360-degree assessment of the learners. So I engaged myself with my own assessment of what went wrong in the program last time. I said, I was all set. I don't know what went wrong. Was everything against me? Did I take things for granted? Well, this is exactly what children feel when they appear in the public examination. Something goes wrong. My tayyar tha. I was prepared. I don't know. The paper was tough. I don't know what went wrong. So this triple W of searching for answers holds good for examination also when you are defeated. So I have been doing hundreds and hundreds of programs, almost 2-3D programs every day. But all my technology defeated me, whether my computer, whether software, my Wi-Fi, nothing worked out at that point of time, and I didn't know what to do. So I think as a learner myself, I was ready. I will like everybody to give me 75 out of 100. That is my self-assessment. But then there are my peers who are around. When I talked to them and said, well, you know, this is what happened in the exam, they immediately told me, Balaji, I knew you will go wrong. You have already done 2 programs on that day. Don't you ever think that computers will also get tired, right? The question is that, you know, probably the data part of it was overdone at that point of time. Something went wrong. So the very fact that we are ready doesn't mean the system is also ready for this one. So as peers and people who, technology experts who told me what went wrong, when I explained to them, they would give me only 35 out of 100. They will somehow, ठीक है, आपको इतना experience है, pass करवा देंगे आपको. So we will pass you for the exam. That's a peer assessment. And then I have what you call the client assessment, who said, my people sitting over there, Balaji, we came for half an hour, we are waiting for you. You know what things, how many things we cancelled and came. So you may have 100 reasons to tell me why you couldn't do it, but the fact is we were disappointed with your performance that we couldn't get it. So anyway, आप आ ही तो गए, 10 mark तो आपको दे देंगे. We will give 10 out of 100. So listen, a very simple incident that you have different perceptions. So anything that happens, any concept that you have, any idea that you have, any performance you have, has always got different perceptions. And therefore, to say which is the right perception is, very difficult. For example, when a teacher goes to the classroom and asks a question, for the one child says, ma'am, I know the answer. Answer to yahan tak hai, pata nahi. I don't know why I couldn't get it. I know answer. Oh yeah, it is just on my neck, sitting on my neck, right? But the peer sitting nearby says, right, ma'am, isko to pata hai, but I don't know why he forgot the answer. That's a peer assessment. But the teacher tells, I don't care whether answer idhar tak hai, udhar tak hai, but so long you don't give me the answer, I'm not going to give the mark. That is the teacher-led assessment. So that is the beauty of an assessment, that what I am capable of is one thing, what others think that I am capable of, and the third is what I am really is. There is a beautiful proverb about the human personality itself, that the human personality has got 3 important aspects. 1, what he thinks of himself. 2, what others think he is. 3rd, what he really is. That is the real mismatch between the assessment and therefore the assessment. And therefore, how as good educators we bridge the mismatch between these assessments and provide a real picture of the assessment. Unfortunately, in a number of programs I have done, when I interact with teachers, a large number of teachers and principals, they even do not know the difference between assessment and evaluation. Right? So there's a very thin line of difference, and even at the senior educator levels, there is a lot of confusion about this particular thing. And to put it in a very, very subtle form, to be, I won't say it is also very exact, but in a very subtle form to understand. If I look at somebody and say he is very honest, probably that is a subjective opinion I have. I have known him, I have seen him, and therefore I believe he is an honest person. But there is nothing to showcase, nothing to prove that he is honest. But another time I tell that he is an honest man because on such and such occasion, he was put to test in this manner and he proved himself. 2 occasions I have seen him, he behaved like this. Therefore, I can certify that he is an honest man. Now, I have said, I have done, examined him with reference to a norm, with reference to a benchmark. And therefore, I rate this person depending on the norm, depending on the benchmark, and therefore I consider I have evaluated the person. So an assessment could be both subjective as well as objective, whereas an evaluation has got to be necessarily objective. It can't afford to be subjective. Friends, the question basically is, last time I felt like the elephant in the pit. That's a very important thing. You
Sir,
might have all this.
sir, sorry
Yes.
to disturb you in between. If you can put on the presentation mode, your
Oh, sorry, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that in a second.
slideshow.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Now it's fantastic.
Right. So, I felt like the elephant in the pit. What is the reason? You may have all prepared as a teacher, might be prepared all in terms of pedagogy, in terms of assessment. But remember one thing, in the group of a good clientele, you really don't know how you would perform. And therefore, in a world which is fast changing, questions dominate rather than the answers. So the way you question the children, the way you assess the children is going to be very, very important. Now, when I look at the kind of the result that the board has produced at this point of time, all of you know pretty well that the cutoff the Delhi University is about 100 marks over here. So I start wondering at what is that what we have given out of this evaluation, whether these marks are relevant over there. Is it indicating a kind of a paradox in the system that we have? Because there was a time when you and I were probably students, getting 75 marks in the in an English paper was indeed difficult, but now 100 marks are there. As a matter of fact, I am also a party to the whole situation, because I have argued both as controller of examinations for some part of time, as well as the director academics, that if in a question paper marks are given maximum marks, they should be attainable. If they are not attainable, that means there is something wrong in the paper. So if you have got a maximum mark, you must be attainable 100. Fine, but there's nothing wrong in giving 100. But then if the scaling is too weak, too fragile, and that the skewing of the curve is going to take you to the top level with a number of people getting into 100 marks, either in individual subject or collectively, I think we are making a laughing stock of the whole system. It is probably the right time that we start introspecting whether our assessments are real, cordial, is real, credible, as well as valid. As a matter of fact, last week when I was discussing in one of the platforms, a gentleman made a very interesting observation. He said, Mr. Bala, for the last 70 years, we have not had a result of any board as we have had this year. Right? This year has been the best of the results of most boards of education. Right? But then this year was the year when the schools were not at all open. That means, by corollary, if the schools don't function, the children do well. Is that right or wrong? That's a question he posed to me. And I think that's a point that we need to debate with. Because what seems to be happening is that there is a total mismatch between curriculum, pedagogy, and the assessment. What we do is assessment is focused on various aspects. For example, when you talk of a format, you can have an examination held for certifying a person, qualifying a person, selecting a person, filtering the people, or identifying the talent. There could be 100 different reasons for conducting an examination, and then I have placing the student. But when it comes to a school examination, when it comes to a board examination, the objective here is two. There are two objectives. One, to qualify them, and then to certify them. But what seems to be happening is that due to the consumerist attitude and the kind of the competition that we have, the focus appears to be on certifying the people rather than the qualifying the people. That raises a very interesting question that even if you got 100 marks, whether you are really qualified enough to do that. So what do the examinations indicate? Whether they are becoming irrelevant, whether they are becoming inappropriate, whether they are becoming inadequate, or whether they are becoming injurious to a social system. That is something we as educators need to debate. But the question of the chicken and the egg always operate over here. Whether the pedagogy will change to see that the examinations are conducted well, or whether the examinations are have to be changed to see that pedagogy goes on well. That has been the question for last 2 decades over here. Everybody passing on the buck. But let me tell you that the national policy on education very clearly has brought a good synergy, a good balance between the open-ended curriculum, a broad, thought-provoking curriculum, a kind of an interactive pedagogy, kind of not even learner-centric pedagogy, but it is learning-centric pedagogy, a pedagogy that focuses on the learnability of the children, and also an assessment which is absolutely relevant and credible. But my only question is, all this could be at the policy level, but then are we ready to implement them at the school level? Now, I remember I go back to the national policy in 1986, when the draft document came for this policy, the first statement was the government of India had never failed in formulation of policies, but only in implementation of the policies. And that's where the problem comes here. Now, where do we start the question paper? Where do we see the assessment has to change? Everybody looks what next? What is going to be the assessment pattern of CBSE in 10th class, 12th class? Have you got a sample question paper for MCQ? And that, let me tell you, friends, don't look at what the question CBSE has given. Look at your KG class. Look at class 2. In other words, if you don't really build up the kind of qualitative, thought architecture right from the primary level, you will not be able to get the right type of, questions in the future. So now, why assessment is important? For the reason, a couple of reasons for that. Before I come to that, I tell you, I always remember the famous words of Rudyard Kipling, who said, I keep 6 honest serving men. Their names are what, why, and when, and how, where, and who. And I think that's what to happen in every classroom, from class 1, class 2, that you need to have. And as Walter pointed out, judge a man by his questions rather than by the answers. Unfortunately, when you look at the question papers of most of the schools, I'm sorry, don't take it very personally. I have gone last year, when I went to one of a star-studded school to visit, not last year before last, when the schools were on, in an 8th class question paper, a printed paper of 2 pages, I could identify 24 different mistakes, factual as well as typographical, leave alone that, but factual and also in terms of grammatical and in terms of structure. So we don't give any attention to the kind of setting of a question paper. A question cannot be set during a free period by a teacher in the after coming to the school. It calls for a thinking. So assessment is not something that we do online in the class, but it has got to be a well thought, articulated process. A good assessment, what does it indicate? It indicates the status of learning. It indicates the quality of learning. It indicates what are the roadblocks to learning. It indicates the learning dynamics, how good or bad it's taking place, the scope for further learning, and also it creates self-awareness both to the teacher as well as to the learner on what exactly they have gained or what they have delivered. So remember that unless you understand the significance of the assessment, more as a part of a deep learning, you will not be doing the right job. You will continue to do the same job of assessment periodically. Now, we need to understand that assessment is a part and parcel of a learning process. It happens in every classroom. It happens by every teacher, right? It is not a midterm examination. It is not what you call a quarterly examination. Probably it is a way of aggregating the learning experiences, putting together. But unless otherwise, you have an interventional mechanism in every class, that assessment becomes for part and parcel of the learning the pedagogical patterns in the class. You will not be doing the right thing over there. When you talk of the assessment, every assessment has got 3 important dimensions. One is called the social context, the other is called the cultural context, and the third is called the geographical context. So when you prepare an assessment pattern, whatever be the school, whatever be the situation, you have to be extremely careful. Now, what is the quality audit done by the schools of the question papers? Most of the cases, I can bet In 90% of the schools, the question papers are reproduction of what has happened in the previous years, 2 years before, 3 years before, and then repeated over here. And that's a very unfortunate thing. Intelligent questions, introspective questions, contextual questions are not being set across over there. So setting a question paper has to be relevant, because with the technology all around there, and now we cannot have a question for last 10 years before what we asked now. Probably our own approach to the design of the question paper has to change. I'll give you a very interesting thing how you can put across. I'm going to give you some examples. Later I will come to the national education policy, which because most of you know that. There was a very interesting interview carried out by a school. Probably you might have heard of this in some of the management programs also on decision making, where the school was interested in having was recruiting a driver, and 3 people appeared for the job. One of them was a very competent man, very skilled man, but the only problem with him was he was not having he was not honest. He didn't have values, and he was also a drunkard sometimes over there. But there was a second person who was a very matured man, but very honest also. But he did not have what do you call the hand and eye and hand coordination. And the third person was fresher, right? He did not have previous experience. He had just a license over that. So the question basically was that who is to be selected? Now, most of the people who are there, they said we will go for the person who was just fresher, because the first one was a drunkard and was not having ethics and values. Therefore, to induct a person will be a problem. The second person, however good he is, he had a problem of synergy between the eye and the hand. No. Therefore, we'll take the third person and identify. But now let's put the same question in a different way. A politician, a local politician needs a driver. Yeah, old man couple need a driver, and the school needs a driver. Now, what is the fitting over here? Probably you'll find that kind of the first person could go to a politician, the second person would go to a old couple who want a restful driving, and the third person. So remember, in assessment, everybody has a context. So to say that this boy is irrelevant, that boy is not good, I think that's a very premature statement we do. Every child has a context. Every child will, have to be understood. Very often, the way we assess the children is wrong. Let me give you a couple of examples of what happened in some of the examinations of the board, and in that context, you will analyze why the NEP references are important. There was an occasion, nearly 25 years before, when in a public examination of class 10, there was a question on, constructing a triangle, right? It was in Delhi, and you remember the students had to draw a line and put 2 arcs which will cut, and then they will draw construct the triangle. But when they started in the examination, you found that the arcs were not cutting, and there was a hue and cry. Next day there was a parliament question available, and what will happen? You as principals know pretty well that how question paper going wrong, what kind of vibration will send across. But then when I checked up with the paper setter, the lady paper setter said, sir, this question paper, this question is in the NCRT book and such and such a chapter and such and such a problem number, so on, so on, so. That's the very thing I want to tell you, that the fact that it is in a book X, Y, Z doesn't guarantee that it is a correct answer. There is a solution for that. Very often, when I have seen when many of the boards are even in the classroom, when you set a question paper, there could be multiple answers, there could be incorrect answers. So, evaluation of a question paper, before you go into the assessment to judge the child, you judge yourself, whether you are giving a right question for the child, whether it's a thought-provoking question, whether it's an authentic question. I'll give another example to you. What happened was, in one of the examinations of the board, right, in 10th class, I think it was in the 80s. One of the question was to write a paragraph on one of the following, and the topic given was a train journey. Right on that day when I was taking a round around, and I was coming out of one of the leading schools of Delhi, and I found the 2 students were talking to each other. One girl child told the other, "Ye kya question hai? The people are going to Moon and Mars, and they are still asking a question, a journey by a train." मैंने सोचा गलत है, I could have asked a better question. But when I went to Andaman Nicobar, when the English teacher stood up and they said, sir, your question papers are all biased. I said, why? Sir, you asked this question, journey by a train. We don't have any train in Andaman Nicobar. How do you expect my children to have the same kind of experience as your children elsewhere in the country? And I think that is a problem. That's that, because when you authorize a question, when you put across a start assessing the child, please note whom are you assessing, what are you assessing. That could be even for in the same class. In the same class, there could be a child who has come from UP to Chennai, or could have gone from Chennai to Bangalore, Bangalore to Madhya Pradesh. Now, remember the social, cultural, geographical context would vary. I still remember a fantastic experience how teachers assessed the question paper in somewhere in 88 when an answer was taken. The most ideal man I know was a question given. I remember the teachers, the student has done one mistake, that instead of ideal, he put in the first sentence idle, and the last sentence also he completed it by saying idle, but in between he gave all the best quality to the person whom he considered. Now there are two group of teachers, one who said, sir, this there are two spelling mistakes, one at the beginning and one at the end, and therefore half mark each. Therefore they gave 8 out of 10. Whereas the other kind of teacher who said he doesn't know the difference between ideal and ideal, therefore they gave him 1 and 1.5. Who is a casualty? The learner. Therefore, when you set an assessment, whatever it is, you have got to be very conscious of the kind of things that you are going to have. When you make an assessment, the teacher will, children will find out who has done it, and they will follow it. A very interesting incident was in one of the papers in Delhi, that we had a question and the people very casually, the children remarked that a paper ne kisi madrasi ne kiya hai. I was shocked at hearing that. They said, the first question is a comprehension on Mahabalipuram. The second question, the address is given a Chennai address. And the third question talks about Marina Beach and all that say. So when you set a question, you've got to be geographically relevant, contextually relevant. What a question you set in Mumbai may not be relevant for Dubai, and what a question you do it in Dubai may not be relevant for Delhi. So you have to see. That is why we say that assessment is a very individualistic process. Every learner. So Kothari Commission report very clearly said the best person to assess a child is a classroom teacher. I look forward to the day when a board of education gives that kind of freedom to the teacher to evaluate and accepts such kind of inputs over there, right? So when it comes to assessment, the Harvard Business writes beautifully, questioning is uniquely powerful tool for unlocking value in organizations. It spurs learning and the exchange of ideas. It fuels innovation and performance and improvement. It builds rapport and trust among the team members. And therefore, the whole questioning model has got to be put in place. Whatever what the national education policy talks about the assessment, the 3D assessment, I will come to that in a few moments. But remember one thing, that all the kind of the 3 assessment has got to be built inside the classroom, right? Don't expect that that's something to be done for 10th class and 12th class. You as heads of institutions have got to re-engineer, reconstruct the synergy between the pedagogy and the assessment as a part of the learning process. I still remember a very interesting challenge which was given to me when I was a teacher in the school, that I had to teach one complete topic only through questions. I will not make any statement, right? For 40 minutes, I had to make that. So friends, the failure and the myth of, that's why we brought CCE. CCE was a recommendation of the earlier policy, but that was most of us are responsible for that, because there was a mismatch between pedagogy and assessment. The tools of that were inappropriate, and therefore the mindset for finding the compass of learning was not there. Many other reasons could be done. But I really bet today that even what the new national education policy talks about, the various types of learning that you have, a project-based learning, experience-based learning, integration of art educational learning, right? And all these things are nothing but pathways of reinforcing CCA in another model or another manner. Remember, assessment and evaluation has got to be a continuous process of that. what are the issues in the current examination system as a national education policy. These are not my views. If you had gone into the focus papers of the NCERT, or if you had gone into the draft document of the NEP, it talks about 15 core issues which are responsible. One, that the current education, they think promote rote learning. All of us know that it only promotes rote learning. Then they discourage thinking skills. Of course, yes, because when you set an assessment pattern, normally a good distribution has got to be there between knowledge, understanding, application, and skills. But remember that we used to have at one point of time 50% of marks allocated for knowledge, but now it has been reasonably distributed. But then even the quality of questions based on understanding and application are very, very low grade kind of questions that you have, right? Therefore, you need to organize questions of thinking. The national policy talks about producing new knowledge right from class 1. How would you produce new knowledge? New knowledge is only by questioning. In our early model, if you talk about what do you call that model? Our early Gurukula models, or what do you call the Western models of Plato. All learning was totally through only question answers, right? Question and answers. We call it the heuristic model of learning. Third point that talks about the current learning inhibit extended learning. Absolutely true. We don't want anything to go beyond the textbook. Let me share a very interesting experience with you. Just about 15 days when I went to one of the schools and started interacting with the students in the subject of chemistry. There was a chapter on metals and non-metals. I just started asking. Immediately, the teacher intervened and said, "Sir, these units have been deleted by CBSE for the examination." I said, "Doesn't matter, but the children need to have knowledge. Without foundation, how will they proceed?" Now, what's happening in the classroom is teachers also want to teach only what is required for an examination rather than what is required for the knowledge part of it. I think that's something which you have to, results are very important. I'm not saying that you should not, but up to class 8, you have got a lot of freedom to celebrate. I think you must exercise that kind of a freedom. The fourth point, they said that they test what is taught and what is not what is learned. I think that is one fundamental irony of that. Even today, just a few minutes before this program, I was reading one of the comments of R.K. Narayan, the great author whose birthday is coming tomorrow, and he said that examination systems have become a curse because they don't recognize the individuality and creativity of the learner. I think that is what you come here. It has always been a top-down approach rather than bottom-up approach. It's very important for us to change over to bottom-up approach. They suffer from high sense of top-down polarization. So you have to tell me what I want rather than what you know. I think we have always talked in our education philosophy about perceptions in learning. I've done a lot of work on how perceptions impact learning as well as perceptions impact assessment. Right? Let me give a very simple example to you on that. That I remember a very interesting incident in somewhere in 1968 when I had to appear for an IAS examination. Right? And a very interesting incident happened. I thought I would clear almost all the paper, but there was one paper, general essay paper, in which you had to write only one essay of 150 marks. And out of the 10 essays, I chose an essay called "Ambition is the Grand Enemy of All Peace." And I wrote for 47 pages. And I thought I'm going to get nothing less than 110 or above. Oh, no, but what happened? When the results came, I passed out with very good marks in all other subjects. In that general essay paper, I got 11 out of 150. I had the root shock of my life. I didn't compromise like any other student. So when I started investigating and went right up to Delhi, you know what message I got? Listen, you have written 47 pages of beautifully, but look at the question paper. What does it say? It says your answer should be brief and should reflect your opinion. In the 47 pages, 46 pages you have written the opinion of everybody on the earth about the topic, but you have written only one page about what you want to say. Therefore, we have given only for that mark. That's a perception. right? You may be celebrating all your knowledge, but contextually, assessment has got to be, could be entirely different. Now, another irony that we have is forced and skewed learning curves over there. Normal distribution curves are skewed. For example, this year, if you take, you will find that in most subjects, the curve will be almost up to 70 to 80 marks will be near the x-axis, and then it will be shooting up like anything. I have studied what is called the J effect in the normal distribution curve, where children get 23 marks, the children get, then the examiners will feel 2 marks दे देंगे तो 25 हो जाएगा, pass करेंगे. Then the head examiner will add 2 marks. Then the moderation will add 5 marks. So a boy who gets only 22 marks will get 33 and pass. Okay, so this is what is called the external effect, and therefore when you draw the examination normal distribution curves, you will find what is called the J effect. What that means, there is a huge shooting up of the curve at a particular point called the 33rd mark. Similarly, at 80 mark over there. So, you know, the other very important aspect about our questions is that we are not aligned to competency and creativity. I think most questions don't test competency, skill and competency. They test only knowledge and understanding, right? And I think that's where you will have to reinterpret the question. You will have to restructure the question so that the competency is built in every kind of a concept is reflected over there. I think that has to start right from class 1. Please don't ever think that these challenges start at 9. They have high predictability and low credibility. If पिछले 3 साल के पेपर आप काम work कर लेंगे, 3 years, 4 years, you get good marks, and that's the kind of the thing that you have. They are designed to suit administrative convenience. That's another very interesting thing, though nobody will say explicitly that this is that, but you know, we grade the paper to see that the results come well. So that's one of the objectives of most boards of education, that the results don't go down because I got to answer to somebody else. And therefore, to see that papers are at an acceptable level, whether or not the children learn or not. So that is an irony in the system. They don't meet the variability in the learning behavior. Most question papers are linear, and they don't, your assessment is on what you call a normal yardstick. They don't acknowledge the variability in learning of different types of learners. You got visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, and several other types of learners. And therefore, you don't set your question according to that. As a matter of fact, one of the main accusations I have had with the primary schooling system is that 99% of your questions are all verbal, right? You have never thought of changing into non-verbal and other types of questions. I'm happy that this pattern has come with the MCQ of the CBSE, paper. Number of questions on that come, though some of them are questionable. Nevertheless, they are questions, right? And then they promote unwarranted stress, you know that, and they encourage competition imitation, you know that, and then they say they don't show any evidence or aptitude for disciplines of learning. The fact that a child has got 100 marks in 5 subjects doesn't mean he has an aptitude for that. He has only undergone a training. That's a very unfortunate thing we need. We train the children to perform. We don't encourage the children to perform. There is a huge difference between training the children with the kind of skills so that examination becomes another exercise and you complete it and come that, and therefore the individuality of the child is not encouraged. For the concept of pass mark is absolutely outdated. I still believe it's high time we get out of this 35% of pass mark. We acknowledge 67% of incompetency of the children, which I think is not worth of this nation's pride. I think at least we should come to 50% of marks as the pass mark for the children. When the Macaulay model came in, when the Oxford's was given 65% as a entry mark for pass to the next class. In India, we got it 33 because we had to produce clerks at this point of time. I think we need to celebrate knowledge. We need to encourage the new knowledge. We need to change that. Last but not the least point over here, they are not appropriate tools for holistic development. Most of these examinations that you have are absolutely linear in that brain is not at all designed, according to neurocognitive scientists, that they are not designed for linear learning. They want challenges, but you don't let the challenges to happen. So remember the conflict between the learning curve and the normal distribution curve, right? You want to position all children in the normal distribution curve. That's the irony, right? You don't let the normal distribution curve coming through, and therefore, I think it would need time more to that, but there's a major problem over here. So the NEP talks about the primary purpose of assessment will need for learning. It will help the teacher and the student, the entire schooling system, continuously revise teaching learning process. And I think you might have read about, I don't want to repeat all that what has been done over there. But remember one thing, that at least the national education policy focuses on the inadequacies in the system and encourages a kind of change. It is not a cosmetic change the policy looks forward to, but it looks forward to, conscious change over there. I think this is an occasion where organizations like CEIR or the principals of schools must, take pride in setting questions which are absolutely different for their school. These platforms can be used. As a matter of fact, I had been participating in 2 of the training programs on multiple choice question, and I thoroughly, I examined all the questions given by the CBSE and pointed out what are the kind of anomalies in such questions. I'm not blaming them because they are all set by only teachers like us, but I think we need to perfect on the art of setting question papers, and that. Therefore, what does the 360-degree assessment mean? It means that the uniqueness of the learner is acknowledged by the school. The cognitive, affective, psychomotor domain, all of them are celebrated, taken into account. The 3 assessments I've already talked about. Now, it also gives accommodation to inquiry-based learning, quizzes, and role plays. Sorry. So the inquiry-based learning, this is a very important thing. Now, I'll give a very interesting example to you. I visited a classroom in Glasgow when I was a teacher. There was a practical period. The students came from the practical, and the practical, what they had to do was to find out the quantum of pass weight in 4 samples given to them, right? And it took only 10 minutes for them to analyze what is the quantum of pass weight over that. But the class was more interesting after the practical work. The teacher along with the students sat down, and now the teacher said, he brought a map and said, these 4 samples are taken downstream the river at 4 different points over here. Find out at which point the phosphate content is increasing. They found that at point number C, it was increasing. What is that the city C known for? The city, the point C is near a city which is known for the transport industry. So what transport industry has to do with the increase the phosphate content? That no, they started analyzing. There is no phosphate production over here, nothing. But one thing came out in the discussion, that all the trucks are washed in the river in the particular point. So what do they use for washing? They use for detergents. And what do the detergents contain? They contain phosphates. Now, therefore, the contribution of phosphate to the water was because the usage of the excess amount of the wash soaps used by the truck people. And so now what do we do with that? That's a kind of an inquiry-based analysis. In India, hundreds and thousands of opportunities are available for each and every school. The whole problem is either in inquiry-based learning or project-based learning. Also, project-based learning has been mentioned in the NEP as a part of an assessment pattern. But what is the irony about the project-based learning? That I remember in 78 when I was a teacher, we brought, I was specializing in the project-based learning, and I was a resource person. And then we brought out a book on model projects for sciences, and we brought about 100 projects in physics, chemistry, and biology. You wouldn't believe, for the next 8 years, the same projects were done across the country. The whole problem is when you recommend something to the teachers, they adapt it. They don't use it and think and improve on that. They said, board ke paper mein ye 10 question hai, board mein 100 projects diya hai, isme kuch na kuch karo. Now, so our objective of assessment has got to change. So the NEP talks about facilitating group work. Group assessment is a very important aspect of what you call learning, because the very philosophy of learning is now moving towards social constructivism. right? Vygotsky, when he talks about social constructivism, today you got Wikipedia, Facebook, all that's coming out are models of social, construction. Therefore, facilitating children for group learning and group assessment, creating portfolios for the children. The idea of a portfolio from, the NEP talks about, not a report card, but it talks about a report book over that. So a continuous learning curve of the child from KG to class 12. As you have the number for the ID number given for the child from 9 to 12. Similarly, you can have an ID of a portfolio which could be developed. And finally, the link between home and school that you talk about. And assessment. Now, what's happening is a lot of assessment given by the school at to the children are done at home by the parents. I won't blame the parents for, because the quality of the questions, the type of questions are given so monotonous that only parents could do that. I think we have to change our idea of the homework. I don't know whether you recall, when I was the director, we brought out a book called, Alternatives to Homework. Right? Yeah, homework is not a classwork to be done at home, but it was a number of things could be done by the children. For example, when the mother is doing a rangoli, the child could find out what kind of mathematical patterns are in that. So, number of things in tea making, in kitchen, fermentation, hundreds of things could be done. I think that is a kind of link in assessment we need to bring between the students and others. So, friends, how this is going to help us is that the following 7 decisions taken by the NEP are supporting your 360-degree assessment. What is that? It removes the iron curtain between scholastic and non-scholastic activities. I think that's a fantastic decision. I would like to bow my head to the committee for this, because we have always thought of co-scholastic activities, debates and others as exterior to learning. They are integral to learning. And now I think my principals should need or encourage the teachers, train the teachers to bring a kind of a synthetic assessment of these two, removing the barricade between academic and vocational. I think that's also very important, because we always have looked upon vocational as with a jaundiced eye. We thought it is only for people who have done vocational. Doesn't mean that you do a menial job. No, it is a kind of application of a skill to a kind of a routine work that you are doing. Focus on experimental learning, focus on art integration, mathematical thinking. This is another very interesting aspect, that we have been only teaching mathematics to the children. We have not been examining or encouraging mathematical thinking. I think when you talk of an assessment, when you talk of a continuous assessment, hundreds of opportunities are available for inducting mathematical thinking as a part of physics, as a part of chemistry, as a part of language, as a part of that, because mathematical thinking is in synchronization with logical thinking, and also a little more than that. But then mathematical thinking is very important rather than the peer study of mathematics over there, right? And also your backless days in the school gives a very fantastic platform for the holistic assessment of the learner. I think that's I had a program for the Bangalore Sahodiyas on that about backless learning, and I think it's very important. Backless learning doesn't mean that you don't carry a physical bag, but it is actually a celebration of learning. I think fantastic opportunities are there. I would have preferred not 15 days, but at least 30 days. That means 10% of the working days of the school has got to be inducted as a backless days, because more learning, effective learning, and then environmental learning and interactive learning takes place with backless classrooms over that. So finally, the assessment should give opportunity for convergence and divergence of knowledge. What we really talk about, integrated and interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary learning. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't have any evidence of integrated learning, questions on interdisciplinary modes. I have been giving 1 or 2 examples here and there, but then even science teachers of physics and chemistry and biology don't let integrated interdisciplinary questions to be formed. I think that is very important. I think with the national education policy coming through, my heads of institutions must put in teachers of that, how art-based questions, value-based questions can be asked in language, how it can be done in mathematics. I think fresh thinking has got to do. And that's exactly, we talk about the 360-degree assessment, which consists of the 3-dimension self-assessment, peer assessment, and the school assessment. Now, going a little deep into what is the role of self-assessment in that. Self-assessment is very important, especially in assessing the values, interest, personality, and aptitude. I think these 4 are very clearly indicated by the children rather than by the peer or than by the teacher. Most of the observations of others will be opinionated. Maybe that what the child thinks about his own values, interest, personality, and aptitude might have some inadequacies. Nevertheless, they are authentic, they are credible, right? But then it can be supplemented, it can be encouraged, motivated, shaped by the peers as well as the teachers. But the self-assessment, will give opportunity for that. The school heads must focus on that. Now, why? How does how does it help? Why do we need self-assessment? Because the self-assessment helps in reflection. It helps to give the teachers the necessary feedback. And also, that's an important skill. I think that's a very important skill for life, right? If you had seen very carefully the national education policy, in the primary curriculum, the first sentence they talk about the core skill is self-help skill. I must say I salute them, right? And this kind of a dependence, self-dependency, self-motivation has got to be encouraged with the children. So with a self-assessment coming in place, the children will be able to reflect, regulate, and then educate themselves. Therefore, that's a very important dimension, which I think the schools and heads of institutions should exploit for their own advantage. Then comes what kind of tools that you need. School should be working on, I think even CEIR can work on the kind of tools you require. All that you need will be rubrics, scripts, journals, portfolios, traffic lights, and exit card. This is what most Western models indicate. I've taken over that. What does it really mean? Rubrics, you are going to be very simple and specific. You don't have to be narrative and descriptive. 1 or 2 words that speak of. Scripts, the words that speak, for example, they should be positive and encouraging and not destructive. Then anecdotal, already the CBSE had talked about anecdotal records to make the journals. That's already there in place. Portfolios, which are objective and developmental. Traffic lights, which are what you call regulatory mechanisms in self-assessment to facilitate the child to reorient himself, re-engineer himself, and then reposition himself. And finally, the exit cards that are given should be absolutely authentic, right? Now, when it comes to the peer assessment, a factor that you need to take is the peer assessment has got to be constructive criticisms. It is not what you call destructive criticism, but that needs to be constructive criticism. Facilitating, that's a very important thing. Very recently, I've been talking about interventional learning, right? We have either learning and assessment and end of it. We don't have an interventional learning model. What we talk of as a remedial model is a post-mortem that we do, right? But what is needed is an interventional methodology for learning to fill in gaps as and when necessary, rather than keeping it at a time. A peer assessment will also help for healthy comparisons to scaffold learning between each people. And that's a very interesting thing that kindly focus on the word scaffolding, because in a group learning, scaffolding takes place fantastically. So in group assessments, you can really help each other to build up their proficiencies very well, right? So, and also the group work and group assessments facilitate deep learning. All over the world, today we talk about the word deep learning because there is no grasshopping of knowledge. We need to go into the depth of knowledge, to unfathomed oceans of knowledge, they call it over there. So more efficient and timely feedback, you would get that. Then now comes to the teacher-led assessment. I have given some help to you. Objectives of assessment, you must have clarity in that. Many schools don't have your assessments are not at all linked either to learning objectives or to the curricular objectives. Your assessments are simply linked to what marks the child should get or how other schools are performing. Please remember that when next time when your teachers bring, you ask every time, how is this question linked to the learning objective? How is this question linked to that? So see that how it is done. Scope of assessment must be defined. It should not be arbitrary. It should be defined. So your school team should work on what should be the parameters of assessment and draw a structure. Scales of assessment has to be communicated to the children and the parents, because if you are going to give 100 marks on that, what does that mean? What does the first 10 mark mean? What does the second 10 mark mean? You don't make meanings out of that 100. They are all scattered numbers that give, but it is time that we give meaning to what we do. I think norms of assessment has got to be set in place. Most schools don't have a norm, right? It is all done. For example, as a teacher, I used to do a mistake. After I became a principal, I understood. For example, 8th class C section, I go and I have an examination. After the examination, when I get the papers, I think 8th class C section, Chitra is a brilliant girl. She used to get the first mark. So I take the paper of Chitra first and start evaluating all others accordingly. This happens in most places. So that's where you think that norms of assessment are very important, and not the people in the class, right? Benchmarks of assessment should be achievable. Credibility of assessment, non-negotiable. Validity of assessment, time-tested. That means at any place, at any point of time, your questions are absolutely valid, right? And communication of assessment should be positive and progressive. This is exactly the summum bonum of the national education policy. But the national education policy goes one step further. Says that assessment should also be supporting the highway of metacognition, right? And that comes that making the linearity, scope of internal, all this, whatever I have said could be put across. In final, one word which I want to put across here is that stereotype threats, threat to a child because of an examination will demotivate the child. I have seen several children who got half-yearly mark 50, but who have scored 90s in the final examination. Scenario changes. Their motivation level changes. So let us not stereotype children based on their performances in one exam or a couple of examinations over there. The exercise of an assessment should be to build the self-esteem of the learner. If you don't do well in the subject, no problem, but you are capable of doing well in another subject, you can pick across over there. So, friends, the relevance. So the relevance and role of the Parak. They have got the understanding change, understanding growth, environment, sustainable growth, aptitude. These are all verbs and nouns that you get over there. But I will pick up only one word out of what is given here: navigating talent. I think that's a very important thing. The objective of any assessment from class 1 to class 12 is to navigate the talent. Now, there is a mismatch between the talent of the child, the latent talent of the child, and the examination, right? So, don't think that a child who doesn't perform well in your examination doesn't have a talent. Identify the talent, nurture the talent, give the scope for the talent. So you remember, with the co-scholastic and scholastic activities getting merged, talent identification, talent nurturing would be done. I'll give a very interesting example to you. When I was the director, when we had discussing about the International Mathematics Olympiad, I had several cases of students who used to get only 60 marks in mathematics in the school. But when they come to International Olympic Mathematics Olympiad, they exceedingly did very well. Simple reason that their way of thinking was entirely different. They could solve complex problems, but not what is wrote in the question paper. So please remember that the performance of your child doesn't reflect his competency unless otherwise he should be done. So we have three important terms coming through in the document: assessment for learning, assessment on learning, assessment as learning, right? I'm not going to explain because most principals are well aware of this. It will be repetition and boredom over there. But remember, I always pick up only one word. This one word mechanism I want to share with you is something which I learned after attending a lecture from Howard Gardner. Howard Gardner, when he came to India, has been giving lots of lectures. I attended 2 or 3, but somehow or the other, I was not very much carried away by the presentation. But in the entire 2-hour presentation, I picked up only one word. He said that you may have all the 10 intelligences with you, but so long a teacher doesn't have a pedagogical intelligence, all these intelligences are of no use, right? So that word pedagogical intelligence is very, very important, right? That's what is the platform on which other intelligences are displayed. So you have the point what I want to say is internal audit of quality. Now, I think quality analysis is not being done in the school. These are used more to pull up a teacher, to blame a teacher, to to do with people rather than perception thing. I think our attitude has to change, right? Our attitude has to change. Let us not try to pick holes with the teacher. Let's try to pick holes with the methods. I think that's a paradigm shift I want you to bring around, right? A word about multiple choice questions, which now in the recent past CBSE has said that in the current examination, they will have multiple choice questions over there. As a matter of fact, a very interesting program. I saw that you are also doing a lot of programs on multiple choice questions. Setting a multiple choice question is more difficult than creating a question of all other types, right? Because as one who has dealt with the setting of multiple choice for the All India Engineering exams, All India Medical Entrance examinations, Navodaya Vidyalaya, and all that for years and years, I know how difficult it is. To set one good question for multiple choice, you might take even 3-4 hours over that. It is not writing a word. It is not writing a syntax. It is not what you call structuring a question. It is not getting the choices. Every single choice has to be article thought about, right? Now, teachers doing either of the above, none of the above, both A and B, this and that. I think they are all the lowest levels of setting the question paper. I'll be very happy if you can take a very thought-provoking session on how to construct question papers for multiple choice over there, because that's a very, very important dynamics of the question setting, right? And also, especially when it comes to visual-based question, auditory-based question, they are very, very interesting. Children will love to do them, right? I think that you need to do. Lastly, I'm coming only 2 more slides, friends. One, the neurocognitive sciences supports the reason models of NEP, right? The 3D assessment, people will say, "Ye kya ho raha hai?" New people coming this way, that way. I'm getting a lot of comments about that. Please note that neurocognitive sciences, neural sciences are very clearly said. Learning is not linear. Learning is multipolar. Learning is impacted by emotions and environment. Learning goes beyond memory. Learning network goes on changing continuously. So this leads to 2 important dimensions. One, the question paper has got to be challenging, right? Now, sir, children will fail. They may fail once. They fail not because you are not trained them to think that way. It is not their effect. It is our problem. So once we set the ball in motion, they will do the game, play the game very well. Last, what is given there? Learning network goes on changing. 2 hours, 1.5 hours before when you came for this meeting, your brain network was different. Now your brain network is different, right? That's what Candle proved when he got a Nobel Prize in 2000, that the learning network goes on changing with every motion of the body, right? So when as a history teacher, as a geography teacher, you teach on, say, today is Friday, today is Saturday. You teach today on Saturday and tell the children, next Saturday I will have a test on this particular topic, that the child will ask a question. Ma'am, on what network are you going to test me? Today's network or next week's network? Because learning has changed by that time. So remember that the impact of the focus of the 360-degree assessment is not exclusively on learning, but testing learnability of the learner. Rather than that, it gives opportunities for the learner to display his learning, to do that. With technology coming through, with artificial intelligence coming through, you are getting into a wider spectrum of setting quality questions and setting what you call. Now, that provides opportunities for cloning the questions with ease and that. I think with technology, setting up of question papers, especially in science and mathematics, or even in geography and others, with a visual, with a database, because data analytics is becoming a very important diamond. You will be able to set good questions, and this must start, right from class 6 onwards. So last thing which comes is the report card to the report book. I think that's a model in which we need to work together, because when we say learning is a continuous process, learning to learn is more important. The report book is more relevant than the report card. And with that, I say thank you. I hope I've conveyed some message.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. What a presentation and what an insight. We all are, excited and interrogating ourselves, see what we are doing and what is actually has to be done. So the forum is open for the questions. Kindly put the questions in your chat box, or anybody wanted to ask can raise the hand. Before that, before the audience are ready, let me ask one question, sir. Kindly mentor us on that. The Professor Sugata Mitra said, why to teach that to the student which they can learn themselves? Similarly, why to assess that which the child knows already? So now the question arises, how to make the questions challenging, assessment challenging, question challenging to have fertile answers, and to ensure the smiling dynamics on the face of a learner.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think that's a very, very important question. And what Sugata Mishra said is absolutely, relevant. I always used to say, right? Did our farmers learn anywhere in a school? Right? They knew economics, they knew marketing, they knew soil chemistry, they knew the weather conditions, they knew 100 things which were not taught in the school. Our sculptors, they knew civil engineering, they knew mechanical engineering, they knew how to you take everything that has happened across, right? Sculpture, painting, everything. They were neither assessed, okay? They were only appreciated. I think the whole problem is that in trying to assess people, we discourage them. In trying to appreciate people, we let them go, move ahead. That's a problem. Right from the class 1, we move with a red pen. I always say that in class 1, that the right answer syndrome is the greatest threat to the learning process. There is nothing called a right answer, right? There is a perception. Now, when you talk about lateral thinking by Edward de Bono, when he says that every problem has got 100 different approaches, 100 different solutions, and every solution is right in a context that may not apply into that. The typical case he quotes about in his book is about the Merchant of Venice. He said, when Shylock was asking a pound of flesh, everybody came with a solution, right? But Portia, when she said, yes, I will give you a pound of flesh, people were shocked. But she said, not a drop of blood. That is the lateral thinking. So the question basically is that I've seen so many children asking questions which I couldn't answer. So I think what is important is, you have asked, we need to train our children, train our teachers to set questions. I think when you start from LKG onwards, let me give a very interesting example. When I had an opportunity some 5 years back, I tried whether, if I were a teacher of primary class, what kind of questions I would do, and I was mad after multiple intelligences. I said multiple intelligences can never be taught, but it can only be encouraged. So questioning will help in nurturing multiple intelligences. Therefore, I said if I were to teach a KG class, how I can use questioning to develop multiple intelligences. For every chapter, every topic of the KG, I said about 50 questions for each topic. And finally, I got about 5,000 questions. I'll give a very simple example to you. Class 3. There is a chapter in class 3 on games. From the NCERT book, environmental science, whatever it is. Now, what the teachers do? Oh, we play so many games. We play cricket, we play that, and then ask who is your favorite cricket batsman, something like that. And we what is called grasshopping. Now, I said, if I were to ask the student, I will ask a question. Go and discuss with your grandfather and ask him what games he plays when he was young. Go and ask your father what games he played when he was young. Name 2 games which you play. Now, find out the 2 differences between the games played by your grandfather, your father, and yourself. Is it a different question? Can you go to the PT master and say, why should I have warming up before I start playing? Will it make difference? I think that's where the teachers need to come and think a little differently. They are all capable of that. They are all capable of that. But unfortunately, we are living in a fear-driven syndrome that मुझे headmistress को answer करना है, मुझे coordinator को answer करना है, मुझे principal को आदर करना है, and the people will say, don't do anything, follow only what CBSE say. And that's where the whole problem is.
Yeah. Very rightly said, sir. And Deepshika Kumar, raise the hand. Deepshika Kumar. Kindly unmute yourself. IT team.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please go.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And very thankful to you because you expressed all about the assessment. Actually, I just want to tell you a little history of mine that I was working in IB school from last 3 years, and right now I have changed it to CBSE.
Yes.
So when I was hearing about your assessment and the NEP way, the assessment through NEP way, I'm really happy that the government has made the changes where assessment has been discussed, the questions, because we always focus on feed forward rather than feed backward. So it's like we give feed forward means we don't do that like what you need to change in yourself. I mean, what if the student is giving some assessment, so we don't need to tell them, okay, this is wrong, but we need to give feed forward like how you can improve yourself in what different ways. So I'm really happy and I'm really glad that you explained the assessment. But one thing, there is one question in my mind. You explained about benchmark of assessment should be achievable. Can you please give, can you please explain in bit broad way, sir, so that, we can understand while forming questions. Yes,
Good.
sir.
First, thank you for your views. And let me give a bit of caution or something. You see, do we wait for a government to come and tell all these things? Don't we know as educators that our job is to, build children, their intellect? Are we not driven by consumerism that we have to prepare children for BE, BTech, right from KG class onwards? Why are we not educating the parents to think differently and accept the kind of questions? There are lots of problems. We believe that if we produce results and we put a board outside the school that 10 out of 10 children have got 100, my rating will go up. I think we have to cross that barrier, number one, all that. I'm happy that you raised a very interesting question about benchmarks over that. When you talk of quality, there are several approaches to quality. One of them is the benchmark. Philip Crosby's model of benchmarking, anything over that. There are 2 ways of, looking at the benchmark. Benchmark could be, when I say achievable, that is the drive that you have to achieve that. There may be several benchmarks which may not be achievable. For example, as a student of chemistry, I wanted to be a Nobel laureate in chemistry. That's my benchmark. I can't get it. I know that. There are limitations. But that shouldn't stop my curiosity to raise my levels to that particular level. I think the objective of education is progressive enough to scale yourself from the lowest level to the highest level. And that is the bench. In other words, I will put it a little differently. I would prefer the child to put his own benchmark. Probably if you have heard about the Duke of Edinburgh Award and all that, where they had given that the child would set a benchmark and then achieve that. I think that's what we need, a conscious growth, right? What's happening today is unconscious benchmarking and a lack of relevance between, what's happening and what is that. I think you don't wait for any board to come, whether it's IB, state board or anything. A beautiful environment, at least up to class 8, you are all the monarchs. You can create a situation. I think that's where our why do we expect somebody to come and tell us do that? Why not we do it ourselves? Let's not be afraid of doing certain good things.
Very, very rightly said, sir. Another question is from a very realistic edu leader, Mr. Bhavik Parik.
Good evening to all of you, and wonderful session, Bala sir. Rightly said by you that we should not wait for the government or anything. We did this exercise for grade 12. Normally in comprehension, when the questions are given, children just go for the data. We had prepared the comprehension, we gave the answers and told children now to prepare the questions. So for preparing the questions, they had to read the whole comprehension. And it was really wonderful. Very amazing exercise for children, sir.
You are right, absolutely. I think setting a question is more difficult than giving the answer.
Answer, yeah.
I have always, I've liked that idea. As a teacher, I've always tried, So my only question is, there is a, what do you call, between the question and the answer lies the wisdom, right? It is, the wisdom is neither the question nor the answer. Between them lies the analysis, and that's a wisdom, right? And that's where you bring the faculties of the right brain and the left brain, right, together. So when I was doing the program, I said art and science of doing a question paper. Why art and science? Because the artistic part, the right brain takes care of, and the logistic part is take care of. You preparing a question, you need both faculties to come through. I think that's where our approach to questioning has to change.
Sir, one more question. I asked that question to Howard Gardner during his visit to City Montessori. That is related to metacognitive skill and pedagogical intelligence. And the answer given by him, he has sent his 3 books. Kindly go through it. And
you mean the frame of mind?
Frame of mind and 2-3 books.
Oh, I would have read it 10 times.
Yeah. So we understood. Yeah, we understood something. And for us, you are not less than the Howard Gardner, Indian Howard Gardner, sir. The question is assessing about how to assess the pedagogical intelligence within the teachers as a head of the institution.
See, that's a very, very important thing. I think, you see, it is not a concept that matters. It is not a postgraduate degree or a doctorate degree a teacher brings, doesn't matter. It is not the amount of knowledge the teacher has brought in that matters. But how a child, the teacher explains. I used to give an example about these 2 things. I'll put it in an example. There was a teacher working in Kerala. She was working in Alpi. I gave this example somewhere. Alpi. And, she was teaching English for classes 9 to 12. She tried for a job in Kendriya Vidyalaya and she got a job and she was given a posting in Jaisalmer. After joining, she came and gave after a week, for 9th class, she wanted to do a composition and she wrote, today you will write an essay on the topic, a rainy day.
Yeah.
A student stood up and said, ma'am, what is meant by a rainy day? She said, stupid, you don't know what a rainy day is? In Kerala, Alpi, 6 months is raining. In Jaisalmer, 6 months, it is not raining. Okay. So the question is, the teacher is excellent teacher, competent teacher, but probably lacks some intelligence to ask what should be asked when. I gave the example during this one about the question on the train, journey by a train. That's a typical example of lack of pedagogical intelligence, because when I think of a country like India and place like Andaman Nicobar, I'm sure that they don't have experience. For a person, see, for example, when I talk about a Marina Beach, I can, my children in Chennai would write very well. But if I ask the children in Dubai or, probably they may not, or probably somebody in a desert, they cannot. Therefore, I think what is contextuality? It is, what we try is we want to assess children universal perspective. That's wrong. Contextuality, right? Assessment is in context. Right? I may be good in speaking, in writing, but I may not be good in cooking. So that doesn't mean so I think that's where our pedagogical intelligence really means to deliver the content to the needy people, depending on the context, depending on that, a teacher uses humor, a teacher uses all kinds of, resources to make learning an enjoyable experience. The objective of pedagogical intelligence is not to concentrate and deliver the theme, but to create a joy around learning the theme. That's my goal.
Yeah, next question, sir. I would like to invite Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, the well-known and global famed scientist. Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, please, sir.
I just want to take a minute to do a thought experiment. If APJ Kalam, Anil Kakodkar, and Kasturi Rangan, three scientists with the K, who were educational visionaries, if they were to sit here today and to listen to Balaji's lecture, they would have been tremendously delighted, because it is the cumulative cultural experience of Kalam, Anil Kakodkar, Technology Vision 2035, APJ Kalam 2020, and Kasturi Rangan, NEP 2020. So these three people's synthesis has been presented, and I have been watching. I have worked with those three scientists, and I'm aware of their inner feelings. And today, if they had been here in a thought experiment, they would have been most delighted to listen to you, Balaji. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir. Really, CEIR family extend the heartiest thanks to you, and under your mentoring, we will grow. And some other day, we will keep your session, because I know that thing what you are. The next question, I think two more questions, Rishan sir, shall we take?
Yes.
Yeah, the next question, Dr. Pratiksha Dixit.
Only
Dr.
two more
Pratiksha
questions,
Dixit.
sir. Now it is 6.
Yeah. Very good evening, sir, and heartiest thanks for the wonderful session. We all are mesmerized.
Come to the question, please, ma'am.
Now, yes, sir, I'm coming to the question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, my question is, how far the standardized assessment methods are successful in measuring, students' progression towards a certain learning goal? Actually, I am specifically interested to know about summative assessments and how well they reflect individual improvement. In what ways can they be, used to measure a dynamic rather than static performance of the students? Now we are talking about NEP, right? Term 1, term 2 exams, objective exams, and summative tests. And as far as I may be wrong. I know that formative assessments are the best ways to measure the skills, communication skill or creative thinking skill of the students. So I just want to know how far these summative assessments are useful in students' progression.
Well, basically, I have a small disagreement with your question. I don't believe in standardized learning goals. Standardized learning goals are normally thrust by the parents or by the society or by external agencies. But every human being defines his own learning goal, right? And over a period of time, he deschools himself with a kind of standardized learning and moves towards goals which are he or she has set for that. That's a law of life. Okay. So, being a part of a community, being a part of a social system, we have to go through these standardized learning goals, but they never define a person. I have known several students who have failed in the summative examinations, but in their life, they have done exceedingly well because, all these gimmicks of languages that we use, verbs we use to define learning. I think learning is an experience. Learning is not what you call. So if you ask me, which is important, behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, social constructivism, connectivism, everything is important. Can't say that this is what it is, right? Basically, the objective was what, the Indian mind said, what was said, sa vidya ya vimukti, education is that which liberates from beliefs, and that's science. Science says that you have to, even truth can be examined. That's what every truth you ask, you presume as can be re-examined. And therefore, to me, that you can re-examine yourself, and therefore I don't believe in what is called, these are all, to satisfy the social architecture that you are going. But as educators, let's try to focus on allowing the child to grow. Let me give example to you, though it's a bit of time. I am basically a postgraduate in chemistry. Okay. I did my graduation in chemistry, and my parents wanted I should do a postgraduate in chemistry. But you know, I did my post-graduation in literature, Hindi, right? And my love for language and literature is more that I'm, you know, I write poems, I write that. Today, left to me, I would prefer to be a Hindi teacher rather than a chemistry teacher. So the question basically is, there are certain professional ways that you do. There are certain social structures you do. Life is a compendium of 5 dimensions: organic life, emotional life, so professional life, social life, and spiritual life. I think the objective of education is to facilitate and synergize all these 5 dimensions.
So before we close, sir, last one more question only.
Ma'am want to, she raised her hand in between.
Anybody has raised the hand, please? One last question. Anybody has raised the hand?
I did, Pramod, sir.
Yeah, please, please.
Good evening, GBS, sir. One quick advice for all of us. The current scenario that we are seeing towards CBE has become one that where there is humongous resources scripted by different individuals given to schools to support students to learn for examinations. I'm wondering whether the originality of a teacher in making students ready during her normal class hours will go down the drain with this humongous supply of resources where teachers have now stopped thinking and started to work on the sample papers that we are. Just your take, because personally, I believe that every class, every 40-minute period must be a CBE where the teacher clearly knows what is knowledge, skill, and how can she differentiate that between mastery and progression. Since there are a lot of teachers, your take on that, sir. Thank you.
Well, that's a very important question. Basically, when you talk of CBE, CBE cannot be what you call dictated from an external source. If you have got a number of people who are giving you volumes of inputs on CBE, very good. It gives you a good reading. As hundreds and thousands of library books are there, you can good read. But they are not implementable in the class. If you are implementing, it is something like you are prescribing a wrong medicine to a wrong patient. Okay. So what is that? As you rightly said, CBE has got to be developed by the teachers in context. Because as I said, the cultural, the social, and the economic other contexts in class are different, and it is environment based in the classroom. So what CBE you talk of in a village or rural situation is different from what you would talk in Delhi or what you talk in Dubai. So contextuality, that's what I've been telling. Education is got a contextual reference, right? Now, for example, if there is a child who is a good painter, you cannot give a book on CBE and then say, follow this book and do the painter, right? And I would go by what Michelangelo said, right? When you look at this, somebody asked him, how did you design this beautiful statue? He said, I saw an angel in the marble and I got her liberated. And that's exactly what the teacher should be doing in the class. Every child is an angel, and to liberate the child. Don't try to, put something else on the child. You read everything for your knowledge, and that's the end of it.
Thank you. Thank you, GPS. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. What a wonderful session. And
our grand finale.
Yeah, and successful grand finale, and your presence itself ensures the definition of the grand finale. And if I have to say, being I am a physics student, but like you, I also loved poetry and Hindi and all. So before your session, what we were, and after your session, what we are. वृक्ष की शाख से बिखर कर गिर जाए ऐसे फूल तो तब भी ना थे हम, और अब आंधियों से कह दो अपनी औकात में रहे. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think I passed my compartment exam.
With distinction.
You're passed. Yeah, you got a high mark. I wish Dr. Vasanthi Tyagarajan ma'am to do a concluding statement. Vasanthi ma'am, if you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please make a conclude remark, ma'am, because usually we used to take a concluding remark. This time I wish you to do that.
Sorry, sir. Did you ask me?
Yes, ma'am. You can say a remark about today's session, ma'am. in a very short remark.
Expert comment.
Because, no, expert comment, I cannot use those words. My guru is here. I normally get very tongue-tied when he's around because that is a source of wisdom for me. I just have to listen to him, that's all. I can't speak when he's there. I get tongue-tied. And all of what I'm doing today is his. So you can imagine, though I'm supposed to have done a lot of work on MI very passionately, I think Sir's, the way he looked at MI today is a totally different perspective, which is very locally suited to our needs. Harvard University, maybe I did spend about 8 days with Dr. Gardner and all that. And Balasubramanian sir, incidentally, Dr. Gardner mentioned me in his third book, sir, during our discussion in Harvard. He got my permission to put my name and discussions into his book, and told me, it's okay with you, I'll quote your discussion. I said, fine, go ahead. But I feel that basically, sir, even MI, it's not that it didn't exist in our country. It did. The problem is we didn't give it the kind of focus that it needed. That's it. And sir has always been that kind of person who is very international, but ensures that we are very localized to our roots, grounded. And I think that is the focus point of sir's presentations. So it's not high funda Harvard University. It is very simple. Assessments, I think this is one of the simplest presentations I've seen. And I think, sir, you have to share your materials with us. This time you're not going to do anything but read it all over again. Because
always knowledge you should share.
Yes, sir. We cannot use it also, by the way. Because getting your slide doesn't mean that I can present it the way you did. In fact, we can't. But then going through it, sir, possibly maybe sending you some queries on certain slides would help us to kind of broaden our vision of assessment. Sure. I don't have the thing to say anything about it, sir. Tamil சொல்லுவாலியா அருகதை இல்லை எனக்கு உங்களை பத்தி பேசுறதுக்கு. ஆமா.
Ma'am, you have to translate that.
அல்ல நிஜமா அருகதை இல்லைன்னா I'm not fit to talk about him. I don't have the capacity. But he's my guru.
No, not about sir. About today's
program. I already told you.
Glory, today's glory, which is being in the atmosphere.
Yes, sir. You can see the energy levels in the group, how everybody has responded, because that's how sir has triggered thinking, and it's very localized, like I told you. It's not, talking big language. It's just appealing to the simple person here. And I think that's what we need in something like assessment, not making it complicated, making it as simple as possible for the learner. And we're all learners and we're learning from sir or mentor. Thank you, sir. Such a privilege. I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am. Thank you very much.
Shahjahan sir is there. Shahjahan sir.
Shahjahan sir is there.
No, I think
no. Yeah, this is again, finally, I would like to say this is a grand finale. There's a team under Manla ma'am worked very hard arranging, congratulations to, Manla ma'am and her team. And special thanks to Vijay ma'am and Priya Murali ma'am to make all this thing happen. And the entire credit goes to CEIR Global Trust and the team members. Vande Gurum, please do attend tomorrow's special Sunday session. Mindfulness, let us live happily, healthily, and successful life. So please attend. You can use the same ID. The link today is the same link we are providing, or you can find the link in the this thing also. Please attend the session. Make this as a routine. Being happy, you need to practice to be happy. And please do that practice. It will continue for some time. So we want that to be a routine, a practice for our daily life. Please do attend. And the feedback form will be coming to you now. Please fill it. It has a validity till 12 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow it won't have this link won't be there. And what else? Once again, every Saturday 4:30, please join with us. Thank you. Vande Gurum. Special thanks to our dearest Balasubramanian sir. Very, very, because I cannot speak English with him because usually I talk with Tamil. So, great honor, privilege, and the grand finale, was this thing. Thank you, Pramod sir. Thank you, Vasanthi ma'am, Shahjahan sir, Deepa ma'am, all our dearest family members and our participants. An excellent weekend. Vande Gurum. Vande Gurum.
Vande Gurum.